When you look at, I guess, where the Royals are at this stage, I don't imagine you're disappointed in a 4-3 homestand that includes two of the teams who are ahead of you in the standings. But did you in any way feel the way we did at the beginning, where when you get those first two games, you start daydreaming about 5-2 or catching up with more games? Do you find yourself doing that, or have you just been around baseball too long to get caught into that trap?
No, I don't even consider daydreaming. You win the first two games, you have a chance to sweep. You split the first two. Now you're trying to get the win on the last game to win the series. But when you win the first two, you certainly want to sweep the series because it's a great opportunity. And we didn't capture it. So it is a bit disappointing. But bigger picture, going 4-3 against two pretty good teams in our division, that's a win for us, so we can't lose sight of the fact that it was a good homestand. It just had a chance to be a great homestand, but it's done, it's over with, and now you move on and you play good tonight against Chicago.
JJ, when you look at the White Sox, how much different is this team this year compared to last year? It seems like the power numbers way up for this team. They've been spending money, obviously 3 guys with more than 9 home runs, but it seems like the White Sox are going to be a player in this division in the future.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Actually, talking to some of our players last year at the end of the season, in talking about our division, a couple players pointed out that they thought Chicago was clearly better last year. I mean, so basically you're talking about a lot of 500 teams right now. So if you're going to be a 500 team the entire year, you're going to be in it at the end, but you may not separate yourself. So at some point, and hopefully it's us, somebody separates himself from the pack. All things considered, with the tough losing streak we had in there, we had an opportunity to be 20-20 after 40, which would have been more of a moral victory. We ended up not doing that. But in the end, with an 8-game losing streak, I think our team showed some really good character to get back to respectability. I think 500 is the bare minimum that we feel like we can do. If we're not playing well, we should still be around 500. But obviously the goal is to play really well and at some point really catch your stride and get going and be clicking on all cylinders. And the team that does that in its division is going to take off, and there's been some interesting things over the last 2 years, kind of the flip-flop of Cleveland and Detroit from one year to the next. One went on a great run and then one crashed and vice versa. You can see those things happening, but you play 500 baseball for a good portion of the year, but then you have a good, especially like say 2 months, you're going to put yourself in a really good position. The other part of it is you want to be playing well going into the end of the season, and carry that momentum, into the playoffs. So, right now it's one day at a time, one step at a time. We're showing signs of it. I heard something the other day. I think we have the most comeback wins in baseball, which kind of caught me off guard. But that's kind of interesting, and it says something about resiliency, but it also says something about our own internal expectations. So it's great that we've had some comeback wins, but our expectations are greater than the way we've performed so far.
I want to talk about some of the other guys in the field, including Salvador Perez and Carter Jensen. One on Salvi, seems like obviously hasn't been catching quite as much. Where is he health-wise? Do you guys get any sense that maybe the bat's coming around? Like I've said before, JJ, like I largely am very patient with Salvi because I've seen this a lot in his career. But is he health-wise, is he okay? Do you think you'll get back to a 50-50 split with him and Carter? How do you kind of envision, I guess, the rest of the season now that you're currently carrying 3 catchers?
Yeah, I think the first thing is we got to get Salvi back to the point where he can catch at least 3 days a week before we can get, away from a 3-catcher situation. We're not there yet. I don't know, how Salvi feels today, but we felt like somewhere in this week he'll be able to start catching again. We took advantage of, the Monday off day by giving him off on Sunday. And that's all an effort to just put him in the best physical health we can possibly put him in. He's not going to be 100%. Very rarely in the time I've known Salvi has he been 100%, which kind of, is part of his, legacy. He just plays, and it's great. But when Salvi's at his best, it's when he's catching enough and he's getting enough time off of his legs for the bat to be consistent and be strong and be good throughout the year. But Salvi's got he probably is the best perspective of anybody I've ever been around. He knows who he is, and he knows he goes through the periods of time where he's not hitting well, but he also knows he's going to go on a 3-week run. And at the end, he believes his numbers are going to be there. And historically speaking, his numbers have been there. So, that's where it's nice to have a veteran who knows what he is, who he is, and what he's capable of doing. And then we just got to help out by putting him in the best position to perform by balancing the catching and the DH days, throughout the year. So the injury aside, I think once he's healthy, you'll see him catching, back more to that 50-50. And early on, he caught more than 50-50 just because of the way some off days fell, and it just didn't quite work out that way. But I could see 50-50 just to keep him healthy and get the production out of his bat. Not only his bat, but also Carter. Carter catches a lot. It's going to take a toll on his bat. So we do need that balance from both guys.
Do you, like with Carter, I've heard Q say that he thinks he's a really diligent worker as it relates to getting better behind the dish. There's been some questions about pass balls or some of that, JJ. How confident, I guess, are you guys as an organization that Carter will continue to get better behind the dish?
Extremely confident. I think what he's going through are just some, young player type of mistakes, lapses in focus. Nobody probably remembers this, but we had very similar things happen with Bobby, his first year, trying to make every play and not making great decisions. And once he matured and understood, how to stay focused and what the moment is, he became a Gold Glove shortstop. Now, not saying that we expect Carter necessarily to become a Gold Glove catcher, but we certainly expect that the growing pains and being a young player, he'll grow out of that, and he's going to be a really good catcher.
JJ, is Bobby Witt Jr., is he quietly having one of his best years? You think about this guy, he's leading. I know the stats aren't going to blow people away at some point, but you look into it, he leads Major League Baseball in WAR. And every time, every series this guy does something, I mean, is this guy still getting better and better every day in front of your eyes?
It's really, I find interesting right now. So, the fact that he's leading Major League Baseball in WAR, I believe he's on track to have a greater amount of WAR at the end of the season than he did the year he almost won the MVP. But we also know that Bobby is just playing solid, quietly, really good baseball. But the explosiveness and, the homers and more doubles and all that stuff, it's going to come. So it's kind of scary to think about, where he's playing good baseball, which actually translates to great baseball. Still think there's more in there. There's going to be more, but it also speaks to how much he can impact the game, both on the bases, in the field, and in the batter's box. When you can do all three of those things, that WAR is going to drive north, and that's certainly what he's doing now. And I think it's just going to keep climbing. It's just a special player that we get to see every day, and you don't even realize sometimes how much he's impacted the game because he does it in such a consistent fashion. It's just neat to see.
JJ, you guys play, like, the home runs are up this season versus where they were last year. You guys have more power, but it's like everyone's just kind of like stuck in the same spot. Like, everyone's on pace to hit 20. Jack and Carter and Bobby and Vinny. Like, I guess, to that same point with Bobby Witt Jr., you guys still hoping that at some point this team's going to get on a run where the power potential of this team seems about as great as it has been in a number of years?
Yeah, I think that'll come around. We'd love to have, 9 guys or so, let's say 7 guys with 20 homers. That'd be great. But we have guys that are capable of hitting 30 or more. So Vinny's capable of doing it. Salvy's capable. Bobby's capable. Mike Hell's could be in the 20s. So we have some guys that are really capable of doing more. But, again, going to use the word consistency again. The more consistent we are, the better off we're going to be in the long run. So it's good that, we got more guys that are hitting for more power, and we're trending in the right direction. But we do know we have a couple guys in there that are going to hit more. And that's not even talking about the young guys that we know are capable of hitting, 25 plus. It's just a matter of when do they do it in Cags and Carter, but they're capable of doing it as well.
You guys have Stephen Kohler going tonight because Cole Reagans had to go to the IL about a week ago or so. I guess where are things with him? Obviously, that kind of injury, as you know, with Giordano or some others who have had it, depends on the pitcher. So, optimistic still that it might be a short version for Cole Reagans, or do you guys think he's going to need more time?
Yeah, no, we're optimistic it'll be short. When we decided to put him on the IL, we felt like it was going to be basically the 15 days, talked about throwing play. He's already started to throw again, so it's not like he's not playing catch. He's playing catch. he'll progress to the mound here within the next couple of days. And, that ideally we get him out on a rehab assignment, sometime in the next 7 to 8 days so he can make that start when he's ready to come off of the IL. But so much of it just depends on how he progresses through this week. But the feeling was that it was going to be short term. Our medical staff is really good. They know Cole's body very well. They think he's going to respond exceptionally well to the injection and the time off and get back on track quickly.
I will say, back on the other end, Noah Cameron is someone you would need more if Cole Reagans is going to miss time. I've seen some stuff on arm slot or velocity. What do you guys think it is with Noah Cameron right now that's not equaling the same amount of success he had last year?
Yeah, well, one, I think the tempo in his delivery is a little quick, and I think that's leading some command issues. But the other thing is he was throwing a lot of fastballs, more fastballs than he did last year. So there's a real conscious effort this last start to throw more off-speed pitches so teams would get off of his fastball. So much of what needs to happen, though, is throwing strike one because he has the ability to expand with the changeup, the curveball, the slider, and now, the cutter as well. He has a lot of options, a lot of pitches, a lot like Lugo and Waka. But if you don't throw strike one, then you kind of paint yourself in a box. And, throwing strike one consistently is a big key for any pitcher. But, it seems to affect Noah a little bit more, probably because his room for error is not as great as some others. He's more of a finesse, touch and feel type of pitcher. He's got enough power, but he's going to rely on soft contact quite a bit. And, to get that soft contact, you need the hitter on their heels. And when he gets them on their heels, he's going to get soft contact, and he'll get deeper into games and be a more productive starting pitcher, which we've seen him do.
One more question on the standings, JJ. I do find this interesting, and a lot of people don't realize it. The White Sox are actually a playoff team right now. The White Sox are a third wild card. The Royals just a half game back. I don't think people realize they're just a half game back from the wild card. And I kind of want to know your perspective, JJ, when you look at the front office and how you think of things. I'm just curious how the American League looks at things. 'Cause only 4 games back. Houston's in last. They're only 4 games back from a wild card. But when you got all these teams right there, and you're looking at teams, who's going to make moves, who's not going to make moves, I think this is going to be a crazy summer because theoretically every single team in the American League has a chance.
There's no question about it, and I can't figure out, why is there a disparity between the records in the National League and the American League. I can't quite figure that out, other than it's a quarter of the season. It'll play out, but what it does, the sort of the snowball effect is when every team thinks they're in it, the trade deadline becomes kind of interesting. It's going to be sort of stagnant because if you're a 500 team and you're in it, you're going to look to acquire more than likely. Especially, if you believe in what your team's doing, you're going to look to acquire. But if too many teams are looking to acquire, the supply of players to help those teams get better goes down because they're keeping their players. So it could have a great effect on the trade deadline. And, but the interesting thing is there's been 2 pretty significant trades made so far. You had the Guardians acquire a catcher from the Giants, and then today, the Diamondbacks and Dodgers made a deal. So, it's just one of those things we have to do our work and speaking with other clubs and communicating so what might be happening along the way. But they were 2 pretty big trades, or I would call significant trades being made, really, what's today, May 12th? We've had 2 significant trades already. So I find that kind of interesting as well.
Has anybody made you a trade offer yet?
No, not yet. No. Yeah, we're going to stay on the phones and keep working and see what evolves. But I think teams are in that stage right now. What do we really have in our team, and how do we make good decisions come early July, late June, so we know which direction we're going by the deadline?
Feels like if you're trying to buy this early, JJ, you got to be the one calling them maybe too,
Yeah, you got to have specific need, and I think that's a little bit of what we saw in both of those trades. There was a need, and teams were able to find a partner and make a good trade.
Appreciate the call, JJ, as always. We like your time, and I guess hopefully have fun in Chicago as the Royals try to get the series against the Sox.
Sounds good, guys.